How's it going, everybody? If you spend any time in like the hiking Facebook groups or on like the hiking Reddit pages, or even maybe just watching hiking YouTube videos, you might have stumbled across this interesting article over the past few days. It came out a few days ago. I'm a few days late, but that's okay. This is a really interesting article. And like I said, it's been getting a lot of attention. And so I wanted to make a video analyzing it. Let's read the title. Could thru hiking be bad for your health? A new study makes a troubling find, which is a very dramatic title. Whoever wrote this title, they probably watch my videos or something. They might have taken a page out of my book when it comes to over-dramatic titles. The truth is, as a lot of people have pointed out in the comments to this article on various Facebook forums and on Reddit and stuff, and all the places that this article is posted, this title might be a little bit misleading. It might be. Well, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna analyze this article. That's the point of this video. Now, I am not a nutrition expert. I am not a health expert. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. My knowledge when it comes to, I'll just say, diet and health, which is what this article has to do with, is at most the same as yours, most likely. And I think realistically, it's probably a little bit less. So I just want to be clear about that. I am not a doctor. I'm not a health expert. I have thru hiked a long distance trail though, and so that is the perspective I'm going to be, bringing to the table for this video. That is the perspective that I'm going to be, coming at when I react to this article. So first of all, when Tom Heinbockel decided to make himself into an experiment, he didn't expect the results to change the way he looked at hiking. He certainly didn't expect it to change his health for the worse. Ooh, that's awfully dramatic there, Tom. So then it kind of just goes through, gives the history on why he decided to hike, the University of Colorado, all that stuff, chatted with this professor who was assisting him in this study. And basically they came to the conclusion that they are going to measure some things about his body before and after the hike, and then compare and contrast and try to draw some conclusions from that. And that's what we get into right here. Before his departure, the pair, that is Heinbockel and this professor here, Daniel Craighead, I think is how you say that. My apologies if I butcher these names. Before his departure, the pair put Heinbockel through a battery of tests to measure a variety of fitness markers. They used X-ray scans to assess his body composition and bone density. And see, these aren't even the hard medical words I'm going to try to pronounce in a second, but I'm already fumbling my words. And ultrasound equipment to measure how efficiently his arteries functioned. They took his blood pressure and resting heart rate, and he ran on a treadmill to measure his oxygen consumption. I don't really know what most of this stuff means, to be honest, but I think, it says right here, overall, the data showed a picture of an athletic young man in his prime. As the pair later wrote, Heinbockel was highly fit and had a low body fat percentage. This next part gives some details about his hike, and then I want to skip to this part right here. It says he snacked on a typical thru hiker fare, jerky, individually wrapped pastries, chips, and did push-ups along the way, hoping to keep some upper body strength. He reached the Canadian border in 112 days, about a month faster than most hikers take to finish the PCT. First of all, this guy's doing push-ups on his thru hike. That's pretty gnarly. I mean, I'm sure some people have done this, but I feel like I've never seen somebody who was routinely doing exercise in addition to the exercise that you're required to do, aka hiking, while you're on a thru hike. That's pretty interesting to me. And then, as it said here again, typical thru hiker fare in terms of food, jerky, individually wrapped pastries, chips, honestly, a lot of the stuff that I ate on my thru hike. So that's important, and we're going to get to why that's important in just a second. So here we go. When Heinbockel returned to the lab, however, he and Craighead were in for a surprise. On the outside, Heinbockel didn't really look that much different. His weight had stayed stable, which is kind of surprising because a lot of people lose weight over the course of their thru hike. I lost a little bit, not quite as much as I saw other people losing. His weight had stayed stable, and his body composition had barely budged. The tests, however, see, that surprises me too. I feel like maybe I just don't understand exactly what body composition means, but to me, I think in terms of like muscles, because I lost a lot of muscle over the course of my thru hike. Like I said, my weight dropped a little bit, but I feel like I retained a lot of my body fat and I lost a lot of my muscle, at least in my upper body. I guess it's different for your legs, obviously. The tests, however, revealed that his arteries had taken a turn for the worse. Hindbuckle's I'm not even going to say artery flow. Hindbuckle's whatever artery flow. I need to get my nurse roommates out here to read this shit for me. Mediated dilation, a measure of how well the something lining a layer of cells and blah blah blah. It's kind of summed up here. Basically, they're saying after the hike, he had an increased risk of heart disease and stroke. And this is where it gets interesting. Quoting from Craighead here, that degree of decrease might be what you expect to see, over multiple decades of someone aging, and he experienced that in only 112 days. I feel like it's not surprising to hear that somebody's health might have suffered a little bit over the course of a thru hike. However, when it's put like this, I mean, the degree of decrease might be what you expect to see over multiple decades of someone aging, and he experienced that only in 112 days. That's pretty crazy. He's a young, healthy person who is being physically active. All things we know should protect you from having unhealthy arteries. So it was pretty surprising to see such a dramatic change over such a short amount of time. Hindbuckle and Craighead didn't necessarily expect Hindbuckle to get in better shape over the course of his hike, but given the protective effect of endurance exercise, they didn't expect to see his health change for the worse either. The pair theorize that Hindbuckle's typical thru-hiker diet was at least partially at fault. And now here's where and I think a lot of other people start to get a little bit not skeptical of this, but just kind of roll our eyes a little bit. It's again, they say that they didn't expect his health to get better, but come on, you knew his health was going to suffer at some point. And it's yes, the endurance would help with that, I feel like, but when you're eating Pop-Tarts and pastries and chips and all this garbage that they just talked about a second ago for months on end, there's got to be some negative. I feel like it doesn't take a genius to realize there's got to be some negative health consequences to that. So I don't know. That kind of just jumped out to me when I was reading this. I think the part, and they kind of acknowledge this right here. I think the part that we didn't necessarily appreciate going in was how poor his diet was going to be, says Craighead. On the trail, having to carry your own food, you go for things that are calorically dense, which tend to be high in sugar, fat, and salt, and low in fiber. Not a lot of fresh food. We think what's happening is that they're giving the body this kind of overwhelming stimulus of bad food that can't be overcome by exercise. The age-old debate of how do you eat healthy while thru hiking has kind of come up again in this article. So if you're a thru hiker, you probably know what I'm going to say now, but if you're not, and maybe you haven't thought about these things, when you're burning so many calories for so many days in a row, you have to replace those as efficiently as possible. And keep in mind, you're carrying the food on your back, which means you can't just carry an unlimited amount of food to replace the calories that you're burning. You have to be mindful of the things that you're carrying in terms of their calories per ounce ratio. And I made that sound way more complicated than it actually is, but basically, as I just said in the article, you have to carry calorically dense foods. And unfortunately, a lot of calorically dense foods tend to be unhealthy. They tend to be a lot of the stuff they just talked about right here, high in sugar, high in fat, high in salt. Things like potato chips and cookies and just, we talked about it already, pastries and all this junk food. And this is difficult because if you were to try to carry just a bunch of, really healthy, really fresh foods, fruits, vegetables, things like that, you'd either weigh your pack down so much that it would just be a huge pain, or you would just not be getting enough calories. And so you have to try to strike a balance with this. I didn't do a very good job of it on the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to try to do a better job of it on future long distance hikes. And again, we're talking about long distance hikes. I think the negative health effects that they discovered here probably would have been a lot less severe if it had just been a shorter hike, obviously. But you have to find a balance. And there are calorically dense, healthy-ish foods out there, like nuts, for instance. Olive oil, which is a big one. I actually did carry and still do carry olive oil when I'm backpacking. Peanut butter, I guess, is somewhat healthy compared to, you know, the chips and the cookies and stuff like that. So you do have to try to find a balance. But anyways, back to the article. While the study only looked at one person, okay, that I'm going to stop right at the sentence right there. This was probably the number one comment that I saw when people were, you know, adding their commentary in the comments section, comments, about this article. The number one thing that people were pointing out is it's kind of hard to call this like a super conclusive study when there's like no control group. It was just one person they were analyzing. And I think that's something that's really important to keep in mind. Maybe take this stuff with a grain of salt because it's only one person. I feel like the two guys doing this study would probably agree with that. Everybody's body's different, obviously. It's just one person. So I think that's the main reason why myself and maybe a lot of the people that read this article thought it was a little bit clickbaity. It's just because it's not like this really, you know, conclusive, like huge study that was done. They literally just analyzed one person. So keep that in mind. But anyways, back to this. Craighead says that the results are compelling enough that aspiring thru hikers might want to consider them when planning their treks. Hikers should be cognizant of their own health before, during, and after doing a hike like this because there could potentially be risks for some people, especially older people and those with pre-existing cardiovascular conditions. Damn, I killed that. I didn't stumble my words at all in that paragraph. Hikers should maybe try to, on days they stop in towns, make sure they're eating healthier foods and doing things that are good for their cardiovascular system. I really, really, really agree with that. And another thing that I didn't do very well when I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail, I would highly recommend to any thru hiker who's doing a long distance thru hike like this, when you get to town every 3 to 5 to 6 to whatever amount of days it is, don't just pick out on hamburgers and pizza and stuff. You can do that. You're going to want to do that, but also work in some vegetables. You know, pick up some pre-made salads from the grocery store when you get your resupply. You know, maybe pound a few of those in your hotel room. Grab some apples and bananas and fruit. You guys know what healthy food is. I don't got to explain that. But just make it a point, like seriously, to eat healthy food when you can. Maybe even pack out a couple avocados or a banana or two, apple or two, or whatever, the day you leave town, something like that. Again, I'm not saying you need to pack that stuff like for your regular meals when you're in the middle of a resupply, but when you're in town and when you have access to healthy food, you gotta take advantage of that. Certainly something I'm going to be paying attention to when I'm back out on another long distance thru hike, whenever that is. And this is important too. When they get off the trail and are back to living the normal lifestyle, this is quoting Craighead again, obviously, when they get off the trail and are back to living the normal lifestyle again, they should be sure that they're making up for that time they kind of lost on the trail by eating lots of fruits and vegetables. Another thing I probably wasn't super great at, and it's easier said than done, but actually I guess it's not that hard to eat some fruits and vegetables after you get done your thru hike. And again, I think another reason why people might not have liked this article too much is because like that's kind of obvious to some people, maybe not obvious to other people. I guess it wasn't obvious to me, but that was just because I was kind of naive back at the time that I finished my thru hike. But yeah, that's a thing that you should do. Try to make up for the shitty food you're eating on your thru hike after you get back by being really, really strict about your diet. It's not only going to help your physical health, but I can tell you for a fact, if you keep eating like shit after your thru hike, you're going to feel terrible. The whole like post-trail depression, post-trail blues, whatever you want to call it, is going to be way worse. You really got to try to treat your body well once you're done your thru hike. It's going to help your mental health just as much as it's going to help your physical health. But don't worry, it's not all bad news. As it says right here, the good news, those negative changes are reversible. That's really this is good. This is good stuff. It's good to hear that. It's not just going to permanently destroy your body, as I might have implied in the stupid thumbnail and title that I gave this video. Sorry. While the researchers didn't do enough follow-up to say how long the effects of Heinbockel's thru hike persisted, well, it would have been nice if we could know that, given the dramatic title of this article, but whatever. Craighead says that the endothelial lining is fairly malleable and the effects should subside eventually with a return to healthy habits. So that's good to know. They're not arguing that these changes are permanent. For his part, Heinbockel, who's now in nursing school, says that if he does another thru hike, he probably won't change anything for now anyway. That's kind of kind of bizarre. He says, I think my nutrition strategy works really well for me, but if someone else was older, it probably would be better for them to not eat such crap all the time. He says, if they're a high-risk person, that might not be wise for them. And that's the end of the article. So I can kind of understand why people weren't happy with this, as I talked about a little bit while I was reading it. The title was a little bit dramatic. I feel like the results are fairly obvious. I mean, going back to that quote that I highlighted a few minutes ago, the part where he says the thing about experiencing like the decrease, over the course of 112 days compared to decades of someone aging, that was a little bit surprising to me. That part kind of stuck out, but like, to sum this up, to me at least, it kind of just seems like fairly obvious stuff, like eating like crap is not going to like be good for your health, obviously, despite the exercise that you're doing on a daily basis. And I think the takeaway for me as someone who's going to do a future thru hike is, I mean, to be honest with you, nothing that I didn't already know prior to reading this article. Eat healthy when you can on the trail. Like I said, eat healthy after the trail. But, I don't think there's anything revolutionary there. I don't think there's any breakthrough stuff there. One thing I wish they had maybe talked about a little bit more in the article is how he physically felt. They talk about like the measurements they took of his body and stuff and how those compare to before. But I know a lot of people that finish their thru hikes and then feel terrible for a little while, like physically, like their bodies are just destroyed, which again is obvious given what they just went through. But for me, it was a little bit different. I actually felt pretty good when I finished my hike, and it wasn't until like maybe a few months later that I kind of started to feel some of the effects. And honestly, to this day, this has nothing to do with my arteries or anything, but my left foot is still a little bit messed up from it, I think. But overall, I felt pretty good. Maybe he did too at the end of his thru hike, and that's why they didn't talk about it. But for some reason, he was obviously less healthy, and I guess that wasn't affecting him, or I'm just speculating at this point. Clearly, I am not a health expert, and I'm sure there's a lot of people reading the comments that might have a better understanding of this stuff than I do, given I can't even pronounce half the words in this article. So if you have some thoughts on this, if you thru hiked, how did you feel afterwards? Leave a comment, let me know. If you know more about nutrition than I do, and maybe you've thru hiked or maybe you haven't, but if you just have any insight into this, leave a comment, let me know what's good. And if you have any strategies for eating healthier on the trail, I mean, again, it sounds obvious, just eat healthier food, but it's not quite as obvious, again, when you think about the calories per ounce, when you think about the fact that you have to carry foods that are calorie dense, that aren't going to weigh your pack down too much, that are going to give you a lot of bang for your buck, I guess you could say, in terms of calories. I don't know. If you have any strategies for eating healthy on the trail or when you're in town or any of that stuff, leave them in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this. Be healthy and safe out there, everybody. If you watch a lot of my videos, if you watch them all the way through to the end like you are right now, and you found any useful information or any entertainment value at all from any of my videos, and you're just a hiking nerd like me and you want to help support this channel, please check out the Patreon. It's patreon.com/KyleHatesHiking. You'll get to ensure that I can continue to make these videos and continue to provide content for you. That's my plug. That's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, hit the bell, hit the like button, hit the notification bell button, like, subscribe thing. Please do all that stuff. And yeah, thank you.